Don't need that cord. This is gonna be okay. Okay, I will wait for people to pop in. If you are watching this after it is posted, hello! We're just letting people come in as they will. This is sort of a unannounced live. Although I am back at my normal time now. I didn't do a live last week. Cool. Hi. Hello. Welcome. Hello everybody. Welcome. As usual, I'm just giving people a minute or two to pop in. You can kind of see it. I have one right here too. So I did fireworks. Hello. I was outside, obviously, for the 4th of July, watching fireworks. And the next morning, I woke up and I had this huge mosquito bite right here. Hooray, my next hour of work will have entertainment. So I was sitting outside all night, had a huge mosquito bite right in the middle of my forehead. Hi, Glenn. So you can still see it a little bit. And then I have a mosquito bite right here. I've never had a mosquito bite on my face, but it was taking everything in me not to scratch it. And then finally I got some, I guess, itch medication. I've never ever in my life, I've had mosquito bites everywhere, and I'm covered in them, by the way. Never had one on my face. I have 2 on my face, but they're much better than they were yesterday, so that's good news. Hope everyone had a really good 4th of July weekend. I did here also. And so I grew up in Georgia, and you can't buy fireworks there. I lived in Colorado for a while, which is desert. Obviously, you can't buy fireworks there. And then I lived in California, another desert, fire-prone state, so you obviously can't buy fireworks there. I've never had the experience of being able to go to a fireworks stand and buy fireworks. Skeeters are the Virginia state bird. So I went to a fireworks stand and got all these fireworks, and then I've never really seen backyard fireworks. I've only gone to fireworks show, but they were really cool. We bought a bunch of fireworks and just cooked out and set them off after dark. It was so fun. Very cool. I was so impressed by the... Huh? Your dot not feather? What? I was really impressed by the fireworks. It was so cool. And that's what I did. Apparently, I'm immune to mosquitoes. Rarely had a problem with bites. You know what? I know I have a lot of men in here, so you probably don't know what this is. But I think the reason I got bites on my face was because it was a bronzer and it had a scent to it. It smelled chocolatey. I don't know if that attracted more. Maybe. Anyhow. I just had sparklers as a kid. That's all my mom allowed. I bought a bunch of sparklers too. I love I still have like 6 packs of sparklers. I love them. They're so much fun. It does. It reminds me of being a kid. All right. So, hello. Happy 5th. Let's talk about, I was going to start by talking about some of the celebrity hot takes of, of the 4th of July. It's really quite funny, if you ask me, a lot of these takes by celebrities. So I figured we'd have a little bit of fun and talk about that for a little. Obviously, what happened over the weekend, that tragedy that happened in Ohio, we'll talk about that. And then there is a Gallup poll that shows that Americans trust U.S. institutions or American trust in U.S. institutions is at an all-time low. And gee, I wonder why. we'll talk about that. And if you want to, we can look at Gavin Newsom has, now I'm positive that Gavin Newsom is looking to try and run for president in 2024. He really, really wants to be on that ticket, I think. And he now has a political ad in Florida, which was really funny because I was watching Ben Shapiro earlier, right before I started this live. Sorry, I just got a message. Go away, message. I was watching Ben Shapiro right before I started this live, and it was actually funny what he said. He was like, I moved to Florida to escape Gavin Newsom, and now he's doing political ads in my state talking about freedom, which Gavin Newsom, of all people, talking about freedom is quite funny because I also escaped California momentarily. I will be going back at some point, but I escaped it because it was so locked down and I did not feel free. And now that I'm in more of a conservative state, I definitely feel much more free. Okay, so let's start this out by looking at hot takes by celebrity. Okay, this is my favorite one of all. Please tell me she didn't take it down. Please. Let me find it. Oh, okay, it's still up. Okay, so this is Bette Midler, actress. She actually, when I was younger, her movies were some of my favorite movies. She has this really cute comedy called Big Business. Her and Lily Tomlin. One of my favorite movies. Also, Hocus Pocus was one of my favorite movies growing up. So I actually really liked her work growing up. But she just has some really, really, really bizarre and out there and far leftist, sort of angry political takes. And she loves to get political on the internet. So this was her take yesterday on the 4th of July. This is what she wrote. Women of the world, we are being stripped of our rights over our bodies, our lives, and even our name. They don't call us women. And this is where it gets weird. They don't call us women anymore. They call us birthing people or menstruators and even people with vaginas. Don't let them erase you. Every human on earth owes you. Okay. So I think Bette Midler is a little bit confused because it is her own party that is saying birthing people and menstruators. It is her own party that is basically supporting the erasure of gendered language, of gendered bathrooms, of women in sports. So to hear this come from Bette Midler, she's a bit confused. Yes, exactly. But this is what happens when you go so far to the left. All your ideologies, they sort of just like eat each other. And let's look at some comments under this because it's pretty funny. Brigitte Gabriel said, you're responsible for enabling this. Libs of TikTok said, who's they that are changing these terms? Tim Young said, if you think that's bad, just wait till you see what your leftist friends are doing with women's sports. The Persistence said, you do know it's Democrats that want to erase gender, right? Your new celebrated Supreme Court justice can't even define what a woman is. He's right. It's really funny because she's starting this out angry over the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And the Supreme Court justice that she applauded, that her whole party applauded, was the one who, sitting in her confirmation hearings, would not define what a woman is. Hold on, so I'm trying to get a leftist take on this. Someone said, better, birthing people is an inclusive term to include our trans brothers and sisters. I know you well enough that you choose to be inclusive. So basically, the leftists are now coming after her. What words would you use to be inclusive with trans men who still have uteruses and can get pregnant? One person said, "This is a bad take, Bet. Not all women have vaginas, and not all people with vaginas are women. Please include trans people in your feminism, or it means absolutely nothing." Another person said, "Don't fall for the anti-trans panic fake nonsense. No one is erasing women. In a few small healthcare cases where appropriate, they are using trans-inclusive language. That's all." So the left and the right are calling Bette Midler out on this one. Another take that was really interesting was actually Samantha Bee. So you guys know who Samantha Bee is. What show did she was either used to be on? Shoot, what? I don't know. I don't think it was Stephen Colbert. Anyway, she's a comedian with sort of a. So it's supposed to be a comedic political show is what she has, and she's just completely unfunny. Well, she had a rant recently about not celebrating the 4th of July and that the overturning of Roe versus Wade stripped women of constitutional rights that they've had for 50 years. And this is what drives me absolutely crazy. This is the problem. This is the problem. And Samantha Bee should really be angry with her own party because, first of all, Oh yeah, and then they'll call out SCOTUS. They'll say SCOTUS is awful. They took away our constitutional rights that we had for 50 years. No, you never had that as a constitutional right, and that's the problem. And you should be mad at your own party for that because everybody knew, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is a celebrated hero among Democrats and liberals, and someone who I actually respect too, Ruth Bader Ginsburg herself said and knew that Roe versus Wade was on shaky ground. It was a really bad ruling. And if you want abortion to be a constitutional right, you need to look at the legislative branch, not the executive branch. So the Supreme Court, the reason they had that rule, the reason the ruling was the way that it was, is because nowhere in the Constitution does it support Roe versus Wade. There is no language in Roe versus Wade that is supported by the Constitution. And Democrats themselves had several opportunities to codify Roe versus Wade into law, and they chose not to. A huge opportunity that they had was under the Obama administration when he had a Democratic supermajority. And it was actually brought up, and it was Obama who said, "This just isn't on my list of priorities." Every single high-profile political Democrat that is in office right now, who has been in office for a while, that's who you should be mad at. And they all know this. See, they're coming out and they're deflecting, and they're getting you mad at SCOTUS. They're getting you mad at whoever they can get you mad at, whoever they can deflect to. When in reality, it's their fault that it hasn't been codified into law. And the Democrats actually tried to recently with, what was it, the Women's Protection Act or something like that, that they tried to pass into legislation while during this current administration. I believe it was it last year? Maybe it was earlier this year. And the reason, and here's another example of how Democrats have failed. So they tried to get this passed. And the reason it didn't pass is because they obviously didn't have Joe Manchin's vote. I don't believe they had Kristen Sinema's vote, but it was a terrible piece of legislation because it didn't just codify Roe versus Wade, it expanded it. And Joe Manchin is a pro-choicer. Kristen Sinema is a pro-choicer, and they could not agree with it because what it said on this piece of legislation was that you can abort a baby past the point of viability. So when the baby is able to survive on its own, you can abort it. This was an expansion of Roe versus Wade. This was not a codification of Roe versus Wade. And this is just one more example. If it wouldn't have been that bad, maybe they could have had those extra votes and maybe they could have had a chance to codify. But they didn't. This, in my opinion, this isn't SCOTUS being extreme or being conservative or being Christian. This is SCOTUS doing what SCOTUS is supposed to do. And this is a fail. If Democrats are going to be mad, they need to be mad at their own party. It's a failure of Democrats. There was this awesome MSNBC clip that was going viral, and it was an MSNBC anchor reporter at a pro-choice rally or a pro-choice protest after the SCOTUS ruling. And they asked a girl, she was clearly like a college-aged girl, what she felt about everything. And she said, you know what? 15 minutes after the Roe versus Wade opinion was made public, I got a text message from the Biden administration telling me that they need me to send them $15 so that we can get them elected again and fight this injustice. She said they've had several opportunities in the past 50 years to codify this into law, and they didn't. So I hear a lot of Democrats, even a few conservatives, saying that all of this... No, it's okay. Thank you. All of this is going to be really bad for Republicans. It's going to be really bad. No, I think this just highlights even more failures by the Democrats and how they have failed their own people, because all of these people understand the Constitution. They understand the role of the Supreme Court, and they're being dishonest telling you that it's the Supreme Court's fault. No, they knew that Roe versus Wade, it was only a matter... Audio out of sync. I don't know how. Maybe it'll go back. Is it still out of sync? I don't know how to fix it. Is it still out? Hold on. Let me just like... Okay, I'm not going to touch anything. My wires are kind of a mess right now. Okay, I'm just not going to touch anything. I'm going to try not to move. My wires are a bit a mess, so I like it out of sync. Okay, but they've had opportunities to do this, and it was only a matter of time before it was overturned. At least Republicans are honest about where they stand on this, you know? At least you know what you're getting with that. And here's proof that we actually have a decent Supreme Court justice. What was it? Was it Title 42? Okay. And here is proof that this is not a conservative Supreme Court justice, because they ruled that Biden had the authority to end Title 42. Now, I don't like that ruling. I don't like, or not Title 42. Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. They ruled that Biden could end the Remain in Mexico policy. And the reason that they ruled that he could do that is not because they suck or they're biased or anything like that, because Remain in Mexico was an executive order that was put in place by Donald Trump. Whether or not they agree with the executive order, Biden does have the authority to end an executive order put in place by Donald Trump. So they ruled in favor of the Biden administration. This made a lot of conservatives mad. I don't like this ruling. I thought Remain in Mexico was a really good policy, but I mean, it is what it is. He does have the authority to end the Remain in Mexico policy, and that's where the Supreme Court ruled. So anyone that wants to say that this is a conservative Supreme Court and that the Supreme Court is blah, no, I actually think that they're doing a really good job. This is a ruling that I don't like, but it was fair. Okay, let's look at more bad takes. But that really bothers me also about Samantha Bee is they're basically either she doesn't know or she's lying to her audience, saying that this was a constitutional right. No, the Supreme Court does not have the authority to legislate anything into the Constitution. That's the legislative branch. That's your Congress. That's your Senate. That's your president. So here we go. Katy Perry, Jessica Chastain, and Kim and Kourtney Kardashian are among those not so eager to celebrate their country's independence this year, now that the right to choose was stripped away for millions of women. Many stars have taken to social media to effectively cancel the 4th of July due to shortage of independence. That's what they're saying. They're basically saying, F the 4th of July, we're canceling it due to lack of independence. And what's really funny about this is Kim and Kourtney Kardashian and Katy Perry, I don't know where Jessica Chastain lives, but they live in a state where abortion is basically the right to have an abortion, or now I'm saying their language. They live in a state where abortion is always going to be legal. In fact, I do believe that California is going to be a sanctuary for abortions. You can go there and get a free abortion. They'll probably put you up in a nice hotel, pay for your flight. Who knows? But California is basically a sanctuary state for abortions. And you have Kim and Kourtney Kardashian, who have done nothing but basically win the American dream and are just crapping on the 4th of July. Jessica Chastain, I believe she lives in New York. But again, if she lives in New York City, she posted this picture of her basically with her middle finger up at the camera. Since SCOTUS reversed the ruling guaranteeing the right to an abortion, many celebrities have slammed the Supreme Court, speaking out on social media about the topic. Again, they're mad at the wrong people. They should be mad at the Democrats who did not codify this into law. Perry, whose song Firework is an unofficial anthem of Independence Day, made her critique the women's rights in America using a new viral meme. Baby, you're a firework is a 10, but women in the U.S. having fewer rights than an actual sparkler, shake my head, is what Katy Perry wrote. Again, this is also a woman who is married and just had a baby, and a woman who lives in California. It really bothers me when I saw a take from, it was a really big influencer on TikTok. And this is a woman who is married, who has kids. And right after the SCOTUS ruling, got on her Instagram, got on her, I think it was her TikTok account, and said that men should, because of this ruling, men should have vasectomies. And it was just such a terrible take and so awful. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, this is a happily married woman who knows the beauty of having her own child, who is putting these ideas on probably women that are much younger than her that follow her. And it drives me crazy because a lot of these like hyper feminist talking points that say men are bad, they're pro-abortion, are I think it's damaging to young women. And again, it's coming from women that are married and that have their own children. Both Kim and Kourtney shared the same meme on their Instagram stories, which read, 4th of July has been canceled due to a shortage of independence. Sincerely, women. Oh my gosh, so brave. Jessica Chastain, meanwhile, let her fingers do the talking in an Instagram selfie, flipping off the camera with two hands. Lizzo is doing more than just expressing her rage at the 4th. The hitmaker pledged to donate proceeds from her shapewear brand, Yitty, to abortion funds during the holiday weekend. You know, it's funny. I actually saw, we're not friends any longer, but it was a girl that I knew in Los Angeles, go figure. And she was sharing it was on her Instagram profile. It was a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. If only they knew how awful Planned Parenthood is. 100% of net proceeds will go to abortion funds all weekend long, July 2nd through 4th, celebrating freedom on our terms, liberating every damn body except the baby's body. Lisa Rinna, who did celebrate the holiday with a dazzling red, white, and blue bikini snap, reminded her followers, while you are in between cocktails and hot dogs celebrating the 4th, don't forget Roe versus Wade was overturned. Here's why. Don't let them take away all our rights. So, more hot takes by angry celebrities. The biggest beneficiaries of the American way, the biggest beneficiaries of capitalism in America, the biggest beneficiaries of living in a free country where you can do whatever you want, you can come from nothing and make something of yourself. Those were their takes. Okay, oh, this is actually really interesting. I'm just going to, because we were talking about the Supreme Court and the law. So in Texas, this hasn't happened yet. I don't know, what is Texas? What's Texas time? Is that mountain time in Texas? So several counties in Texas are getting together today, and they're going to be having a press briefing or a press conference in, I believe it's Kinney County, and it's Central Time, Central Mountain Time, right? Is that the same thing? I don't know. But at 3 p.m., these liberals are so, yes, they are. 1:26 p.m. right now. Okay, so in an hour and a half, they're going to be having a press conference where they're going to announce that they are declaring an invasion in the state of Texas. And there is, I think it's Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, and that's what they'll be referencing, says that the federal government has to guarantee protection for a state against foreign invasion. So they're going to declare an invasion in Texas, and Kinney County has seen a huge exhaustion of resources basically because of the crisis that's coming over the border. Now, if you look at the definition of invasion, I did actually look it up, and there's several definitions. It means you're being stormed basically by armed people, but it also just means an incursion of a large number of people or things into an area. So, and they are expecting, I've heard like countering things, but they're expecting Greg Abbott to actually declare this on a state level. And the reason I bring the Supreme Court into this is, depending on their interpretation of the word invasion, but really if you look at the definition of invasion, it does say an incursion of many people into an area. So I guess it would come down to their interpretation of an invasion. But it looks like they're going to have evidence that not only are these thousands and thousands of migrants coming over the border every day, we also have armed cartel, we have drugs, fentanyl, that kills over 150 people a day. So in my opinion, that would be an invasion. But I bring the Supreme Court up because this appears to be a Supreme Court that is very, very strict with what is in the Constitution. And if they're following the Constitution, I think that this would be a win for Texas. So I want to follow it. Obviously, it's developing, and the press conference has not come yet, but I'll be really interested to see what happens with this. It almost seems like, why didn't they do this earlier? I don't know why. Or maybe they didn't know that they could. But I read it it's definitely in the Constitution that the federal government has to protect states against an invasion. And our federal government has not done that. So, it was kind of a bummer that Biden was able to remain in Mexico. But this, I don't know. I think this is interesting. So we'll see what happens. Okay, let's talk about what happened in Happy 4th. You're happy that a bunch of people... What the hell are you talking about? Okay, let's talk about what happened in Illinois. That was a really stupid, idiotic comment. Okay, let's talk about what happened in Illinois. I don't know if you guys know this, but this neighborhood, Highland Park, where this mass shooting happened, this is actually a very, very, very upper... This is one of the wealthiest areas. Basically... Yeah, this is like one of the wealthiest areas. This is actually where Ferris Bueller's Day Off was filmed. This is where Home Alone was filmed. Risky Business. So if you can sort of like remember what those houses looked like, this is a very, very, very wealthy area. But let's talk about it. So before we get into it, it's a huge tragedy whenever any of this happens. It's scary. It's sad. These are just people that were out enjoying an Independence Day parade and celebration, a family event that should be safe, that should be fun, that should be memorable. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, like all of the things that we did on the 4th of July, it stays in your head. It's a memory. It's a really good memory. I removed that poster. What really bothers me about the aftermath of things like this is the immediate, by the left and the right, the immediate need to politicize it. There were reasons to believe he was a far leftist. And by the way, I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to, because everywhere you look, there's pictures of this individual. Everywhere this individual had social media, and it was very clear that this person, that this sick psychopath wanted fame. He wanted notoriety. He wanted attention. And I feel like that's happening a lot more and more. You see these psychopaths and they see people get attention because of it. They see their name plastered everywhere. Everyone reads their manifestos. They look into their beliefs. They do all of that stuff, and that's exactly what these people want, and it drives me crazy time and time again. We know this. At least the Daily Wire, I respect that a really long time ago, they made it a point not to say the name of any of these psychopaths or post pictures of them. And I highly respect that, because news organizations do it because they know it's going to get them clicks. They know people are going to look at their stuff. They know they're going to get attention by posting the name and the face and all of that. And when you look, it should be about the victims. Obviously you want to know who this sicko is and why he did what he did so that we can prevent this from happening in the future. But that's something that really, really bothers me about all of this, especially in an age of social media right now where literally anyone and everyone is willing to do anything for attention. Look through TikTok and look at all the people just acting like absolute fools to get attention. It's really sad. We are just a society where everyone needs and wants attention. I know it sounds funny because I'm sitting here with a camera in front of me talking about attention, but it's true. Anyway, that bothers me. The immediate the immediate need to make it political, I can't talk right now, really bothers me. There are photos of this individual at a Trump rally, and then there's also all this evidence that this is a far leftist. I don't care whether the person is left or right or likes Trump or likes Joe Biden or who. Obviously, we know that leftist ideology is very damaging, but this person is a sick, sick, sick individual, and that's just it. But this is what happened. An Independence Day celebration turned into a deadly mass shooting on Monday in Highland Park, Illinois, which left at least 6 people dead and 30 others hospitalized, leading to authorities identifying and arresting a 22-year-old suspect. Previous articles included the suspect's name because he was still at large, but due to the Daily Wire's policy, I'm getting this from the Daily Wire, against publishing the names of mass shooters, his name will be redacted in all future stories. The suspect opened fire from a suburban Chicago rooftop that sent hundreds of parade goers fleeing the scene, leaving behind personal belongings like chairs, strollers, and bicycles. This was a very random, very intentional, and very sad day. Sergeant Christopher Covelli of the Lake County Major Crime Task Force said during a press update, police recovered a high-powered rifle on the unsecured rooftop of a local business, so he just left it there. No, someone said we're the leftists in on this. No, I think this was just a sick psychopath that wanted attention. Before authorities took the suspect into custody, he was considered armed and dangerous until FBI agents spotted him at a home in Highwood, Illinois, where neighbors said he lives with his family. A poster released by the FBI said that the person of interest is a white male weighing 120 pounds, standing at 5'11" tall, with a thin frame. The suspect also has brown hair with several tattoos, including 4 tally marks with a line running through them on his right cheek, red nose, and green leaves on his neck. A cursive script about his left eyebrow. So he had face tattoos. Great. According to the reports, the suspect had a YouTube page under the handle Awake the Rapper. One video that has raised Twitter users' eyebrows shows a pencil drawing of a person gunning down a crowd in between a montage of shots featuring the suspects backed by cinema-like music. I saw the music video. It was very creepy. There was like a Joker laugh. He's in a classroom basically acting out a mass shooting. It's really, really creepy, really disturbing. And it's crazy that stuff like this is on the internet and you will get censored or flagged for doing the most innocent of things, for talking about the news, basically. And then something like this is allowed. It's just wild to me. The post-millennial recovered a second video, allegedly from the suspect, where he recites a poem that frequently repeats that he is like a sleepwalker and can't be stopped. Photo evidence on social media displays law enforcement holding the suspect wearing a black long-sleeve shirt, a red undershirt, and black pants, handcuffed and face down to the ground. Other documentation of the suspect shows him wearing a Trump flag around his neck, wearing a black hat with FBI embroidered in white, and smoking Camel cigarettes. He can also be seen at a Trump parade where he's dressed like Waldo from the Where's Waldo cartoon book series. However, a Twitter account using the alleged suspect's artist name scrolls through posts he liked on the platform, most of which indicating support for arresting Trump supporters who protested the results of the 2020 presidential election and rioted at U.S. Capitol on January 6th. One of the Highland Park shooting suspect's uncles told CNN his nephew showed no warning signs that would lead him to believe he would become a mass shooter. There are tons of warning signs here. Tons. All you had to do was take one gander at this kid's social media. He was sick in the head. He told police he never saw him engage in any violence or concerning behavior, adding he was unaware of his nephew's political views. He's a quiet kid. He's usually on his own. He's a lonely, quiet person. He keeps everything to himself. CNN reported that the suspect lives in an apartment behind the house owned by his father. To his uncle's knowledge, he never saw the suspect with friends at his apartment. The suspect's uncle reportedly told CNN his nephew wasn't working, though he worked at Panera Bread before the pandemic. The uncle also said the suspect was active on YouTube. He saw his nephew on Sunday night before the last time when he was sitting on a recliner in the house looking at his computer. Everything was normal. Social media users have also posted the suspect's last Facebook post from May 29, 2021, which says, "You're all sinners." So those are a few things about him. I'm also hearing reports that he was wearing women's clothing. Let's see. Yeah, his content is now getting scrubbed from the internet. There's a lot of very strange... This is what bothers me. I mean, he clearly had family. You know what's also interesting? Was it the mayor? his dad actually ran for mayor against the current mayor. I don't understand why family isn't aware of other families' social media. I had a cousin. I'm basically estranged from this cousin, but because we were cousins, we were friends on Facebook. And he had a post that actually really worried me. And I remember calling my mom and asking if I should call the police on him or report something on him, because he had a post where I can't remember and this was like 10 years ago. And I couldn't remember what the caption was on the post, but it was him holding a gun. By the way, this cousin is my age, but he had a really troubled upbringing, and he's just been in and out of jail for a bunch of things, and is just a really troubled individual, and it's really sad. Obviously, because I knew him when I was younger. But he had a picture of himself, and he was holding a gun, and the caption said something really cryptic and creepy. And I remember talking to my mom, and I was like, should I call the cops on him, or should I report this? But he actually ended up getting arrested for something else, so I didn't. I believe he's still in jail till this day, and I cannot remember what he got arrested for. But that goes to show, like, yes, that is my family member. I don't want anything to happen to this person, even if I'm a little bit estranged from them. But if I notice strange behavior like that, I'm going to report it, because I don't want anyone to get hurt. I don't know his mental state at the moment. It doesn't look normal. I can't till this day remember what he wrote, but what he wrote in the picture, like, that was not normal. That was concerning. And the same, like, with this person. This person is clearly disturbed. Clearly. But here's another thing about Chicago. So, Aurora shooter still alive. Parkland still alive. Oh yeah, the Aurora one. I think that was another one. That was actually really crazy. So the Aurora, I cannot say Aurora. I used to live in Colorado, and I lived really close to Aurora. But I remember when that happened. I was living in Denver, Colorado, and I was working at, I think I've told you guys before, I worked at this place called the Family Crisis Center, and I worked with teenagers, and a part of my job was sometimes I would be able to get to take them on outings. So I want to say this happened on a Wednesday night. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. But it happened one evening, and I was working the next day. And I remember when it happened, and I can't even tell you. Of course, I wasn't there. I didn't know anyone was there. But when it happened so close to home, it's a different feeling than when you read about it and it happened in another state or something like that. It definitely hits differently. It's all tragic, and it's all sad, and it's all scary, but it just hits a little bit differently when it's closer to home. And I remember, like, hearing the news, and I went to work later that day, and I was actually taking the kids on an outing. We were going to an arcade, and the arcade was actually right across the street from that theater where it happened at, and it was very eerie, just very, very eerie. But that guy, that's another one. He just clearly a psychopath, and seemed like he wanted attention, you know? Yeah, it hits differently when it's closer. Um here is here's another number about Chicago. So what happened is included. And this is from a local Chicago paper, or local Chicago news channel, ABC5 Chicago. So all weekend, including this shooting, I believe. Is this actually including the shooting? No, wait. Okay, so let's read this. Hold on. 10 in Chicago over the 4th of July weekend, 10 killed, at least 62 wounded in 4th of July weekend shootings in Chicago. At least 10 people were killed and 62 others were wounded by gunfire over the 4th of July weekend in Chicago. 12 of the wounded were shot in 3 attacks on the west and south sides. 4 people in West Garfield Park Friday evening, 5 men in Parkway Gardens on the south side early Monday, and 3 people in Woodlawn early Tuesday. At least 16 other people were shot, 2 fatally in violent 8-hour span late Saturday into early Sunday evening. And a 5-year-old boy was hit in the shoulder Sunday night, apparently by a bullet that had been shot into the air in Humboldt Park. And a 10-year-old boy wounded when bullets were fired at the side of his Inglewood home and struck him in his bedroom. In his bedroom. This happens. Kids get shot while they're in their bedroom. Remember Legend Telefaro in Kansas City, who was shot in midday while he was taking a nap in his bedroom? The holiday toll is lower than last year, when 19 people were killed and more than 100 people were shot over the 4th of July weekend. In 2020, 79 people were shot, 15 of them fatally. In 2019, 68 people were shot, 5 of them fatally. They go into details about the people that were killed, but actually, I was wrong at the beginning because I was thinking that this involved what happened in Highland Park. No, that's a suburb outside of Chicago. So this was just Chicago. That's not even including Highland Park. And this is a huge issue. This goes on all the time in Chicago. I saw another article that said New York City, 52 people shot over 4th of July weekend. It is like the Wild West. Well, they call it Chirac. Exactly, yeah. And no, that's a good point because it usually happens in areas, like a lot of these shootings usually happen in areas that have very strict gun laws. I'm just over here scratching my mosquito bites on my leg. Wild West was better. Both parties were allowed to have guns back then. That's a point. You know what's interesting? I was watching on Tucker Carlson. He was interviewing the president of Brazil. And Brazil, for a long time, just had it was really, really dangerous, had a really high murder rate. And was it the president? I don't know. But anyway, Brazil implemented less restrictions on gun laws. And after they did that, they saw a 30% decline in homicides. Isn't that very interesting? After they made less restrictive gun laws. Oh, man. It's everywhere. I don't mind scratching the mosquito bites on my legs, but I just don't want to scratch the ones on my face. Did you mean mosquitoes love purebloods? Am I a pureblood? This is really sad. You can't talk, I can't type. Yeah, I mean, I ate a lot of food and drank a few beers over the weekend. I will say that. So, but I'm starting the week fresh. Yeah, it says WGN investigates. Yep. Has obtained an image of the suspected parade shooter dressed as a woman. Police say he wore the disguise to aid in his escape. So, looks like he disguised himself as a woman. Oh, here's Samantha Bee. Okay, hold on. Let's listen to Samantha Bee.
To erase 50 years of constitutional law. Make no mistake, this is not where it ends.
Okay, yeah, this is the lie that's being told to a lot of people. Or I don't know if it's a lie or if she's just not very smart. Samantha Bee.
I can't describe how painful it is to be here now in a place where the Supreme Court has the power to erase 50 years of constitutional law. Make no mistake, this is not where it ends. Conservatives will not rest until they have come for...
I don't want to get copyrighted. Sometimes they copyright on that. But that's basically what she said. This ends 50 years of constitutional rights. This was never in the Constitution. That is for your legislative branch to legislate it into law, and then it can be a constitutional right. That was Samantha Bee talking about abortion. Jeff Toobin was just scratching mosquito bites. Ew. Oh, I just scratched. You guys. I wasn't thinking and I just scratched my head. See, that's what happens. Sometimes I don't think about it and I'm like, oh, my head itches or my forehead itches. And I start scratching it. Lubin Toobin. Britt Hume actually commented on this. He said, I wonder when it will dawn on such people that the way to guarantee abortion rights is to campaign for them in states that do not have them and get voters on their side. Fuming about Supreme Court justices is futile and adolescent. He's absolutely right. If you don't like it, now it's darker. Yeah, they could be, and this is the problem, they could be doing something actually productive. Don't you have any Afterbite? Yeah, but I don't have it on right now. Because it was actually fine. I wasn't itching it today. I had some on last night, and then I fell asleep with it on. I just had these big, like, white chunks on my face. I don't know if it was Afterbite, but it was, like, some kind of itch cream. It worked, whatever it was. Exactly. They're just crying like teenagers instead of doing something that would actually be effective and what they want. And by the way, they didn't take any rights away. Nothing was taken away. It just said the states can decide. You can use Amber Heard's cream. Amica cream. Oh my gosh, I read earlier today. So I read that Amber Heard's legal team is basically trying to have a mistrial. They're trying to say that one of the... That was a fly. They're trying to say that one of the jurors was illegitimate because they had basically a paperwork error. And the age of the... yeah, she's still at it. Man, this girl, like, you kind of have to admire her commitment in a way because she really doesn't give up. But her legal team is trying to get them to declare a mistrial. It's not going to happen. Basically, they're saying the evidence does not support the juror's decision. They're also saying that one of the jurors is illegitimate because there was a paperwork error in this juror's age. I think it said that the juror was born in 1941 when they were really born in like 1970 something, but clearly that was a paperwork error. And I'm pretty sure you can just look at someone and tell that they weren't born in 1941. I think you would be in your 80s at that point. So I'm sure you can tell a difference between an 80-year-old and someone born 30 years later, an 80-year-old and a 50-year-old. You have to admire her being committed to an institution. Wait, you know what I wanted to pull up? Let's see if I can find it. I wanted to pull up this Gavin Newsom ad that played in... Let me see if we can find it. So it's a Gavin Newsom ad that played in Florida. Newsom... Oh, not recall. Gavin Newsom recall is what comes up. Florida TV ad. There it is. That is true. Okay. All right, here's his ad. Let's see if it'll play.
What do you want?
What a job.
That's not
that
his
I don't
ad. That's a
appreciate.
regular ad. Okay.
It's Independence Day, so let's talk about what's going on in America.
California's governor with a pointed message.
I urge all of you living in Florida to join the fight.
And Gavin Newsom makes no illusion
Talk about what's
who
going on
he's
in
fighting.
America. Freedom, it's under attack in your state. The Republican leaders, they're banning books, making it harder to vote.
A California governor running an ad in
By the way, California has banned books. California banned, I think, To Kill a Mockingbird or something. Also, when he's talking about freedom, I left California because it was so not free. It was so shut down. And I also specifically remember early in the pandemic, California shut down the beaches. And let me just give you an example of how ridiculous this was. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was living in Venice Beach, and I was actually getting ready to move. Like, the shutdown happened, and I was moving the following week. So I had to do all this stuff, change my address, go to the post office, like all these the little annoying things that you have to do when you're moving. And it was so frustrating because everything just got shut down and I didn't know. Anyway, long story short, I was at 2 different post offices, one in Marina del Rey and one in Venice Beach, and I had to go to all these places. And all of these places, there were lines. Everything was slower because everything was shut down. There were lines everywhere. There were people everywhere. I was close to people. And finally, I got everything done I needed to get done. And I was actually walking home from one of the post offices. And I just needed a minute to sit down. So I'm walking home and I just decided to sit down on the beach for a few minutes and watch the sun come down and just chill. I just came from all these places that are allowed to be open, crowded, close together with all of these people in the heat. And now I'm sitting here on the beach. There's no one within 50 feet of me. So I'm literally at the safest place that I'd been at all day. And that's when they closed down the beaches. And that's when it got weird. I was sitting on the beach. 5 minutes later, a lifeguard truck comes and tells me that I have to get off the beach. And I looked at him and I was like, there's no one else here. Like, I'm fine. There's no health risk for me sitting here right now. And he was like, sorry, you have to get off the beach. And I was like, well, screw that. I was close to the boardwalk. So I decided to walk down farther where it's all like, it's a residential area. And this is where I lived. So there's no businesses. It's just all residential. And you kind of, when you're in that area, it's almost like the beach is your backyard. So I'm like, I'll just go to the residential area and sit down. So I walk there and I sit down on the beach, and then all of a sudden there's a helicopter. And it's coming close to me, and it starts to say something in the megaphone, and then it like flies off. And I was sitting there just like, what is this? So for Gavin Newsom to talk about freedom and stuff like that, California was one of the most shut down states. Also, freedom of speech, yeah, unless you support recalling him, and then you don't have freedom of speech, because I don't know if you remember, I got a ticket for having a recall Gavin Newsom table in West Hollywood. So that's not free. Also, how many people fled California to move to Florida where it was more free? Oh, and then he's talking about, oh wait, hold on, let's keep going.
Florida?
Join us in California, but we still believe in freedom.
My question is, what's the point?
Mike Netter is the man credited for launching the Recall Gavin Newsom effort.
No one from Florida is going to say, oh boy, I can't wait to move to California where they're running out of water. We have heat waves. And by the way, I'm not sure they're going to have power in 5 years.
Exactly. And one day I really want to go into this, but the water shortages, a lot of the fires, that is directly because of his policies. Because some of the biggest fires were actually mishaps that happened. And that directly goes back to Gavin Newsom. I'm not exaggerating. I can really get into it. I'm just about to hop off, and I really want to take the time to make sure I give you the right points. But those, yep, the water shortages, some of the fires, a lot of the fires, Gavin Twisted Fire Starter. I'm the fire starter. Twisted Fire Starter. That was good times. But all of that goes directly back to Gavin Newsom's policies. All of it. Hi, Kelly. All right, let's see what else he says.
Calls on the governor to focus on this state's issues. Florida's governor may have lobbed the first shot. Ron DeSantis called San Francisco a dumpster fire and worried about Californians moving.
So, that he's talking to Ben Shapiro. Ron DeSantis called San Francisco a dumpster fire. It is a dumpster fire, and it's all been destroyed by liberals. And by the way, Gavin Newsom, he's a San Francisco dude. George Gascon, San Francisco dude. Kamala Harris, San Francisco gal. Nancy Pelosi, San Francisco gal. The worst of the worst comes out of San Francisco, and they actually have very corrupt politics, and that's one of the reasons why San Francisco is the way that it is. But at least the voters did recall Chesa Boudin, so that's good. You know what? Okay, so speaking of recalling people, George Gascon, the leftist DA in Los Angeles, the last day to collect signatures for his recall is tomorrow. So we'll have to look out and see if they get the amount of signatures that they need. We do backyard fireworks every year. They are so cool. I had no idea they were that cool. And it's funny because I went to go buy the fireworks and I had no idea what I was buying because they're in these, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, but they're in these packages. And I was like, what is this? Is it a group of, is it like a pack of different things? Like, what do they do? How do you light them? Do they explode? Do they go up in the air? I don't understand. But thankfully, the people that worked there were really nice and they were telling me what it all, now I know what it is. Each of those little things is one little mini fireworks show. It's so cool. Oh, yeah. Okay, Sarah, are you going to touch on the West Hollywood police being defunded? Yes, I have lots of opinions on this. Obviously, I lived in West Hollywood for 6, 7 years. Oh, I knew that. Yeah. Yeah, I lived in West Hollywood for 6, 7 years. I knew this was going to happen. Oh my gosh, I have so many opinions on this. So, this is I don't even know where to start. So one of the city council members that voted to defund the West Hollywood police, I know who she is, and I actually had a telephone conversation with her at one point, and she basically told me, and this was last year, so this was a year ago that I had this conversation with her. She basically told me that they wanted to get rid of the police, or they didn't want to get rid of police, but they wanted to lower funding for the police, and then have these like safety ambassadors, these unarmed safety ambassadors, which is like what, hall monitors. So they're gonna have hall monitors to protect West Hollywood. They're gonna have Paul Blart, the mall cop, protect West Hollywood. By the way, I have to get off in like 5 minutes, but so I saw this coming, and the reason I was having a telephone conversation with her is because of George Gascon. I wanted West Hollywood to do a vote of no confidence in George Gascon, and she said, no, we're not going to do that. By the way, she supports George Gascon. So does Lindsay Hovarth. Lindsay Hovarth is another city council member that supports George Gascon, so of course they're not going to want to recall him. Lindsay Hovarth, also one of the city council members in West Hollywood that voted to defund their police, she's going to be running for county supervisor. So that's going to be interesting. But here's my thoughts on it. I think these people are so stuck in their ideology. They have no sense of reality. What they do is they shape their reality to match their ideology. And a lot of the crime that you're seeing in West Hollywood are people coming from other parts of Los Angeles into West Hollywood, preying on the people of West Hollywood, preying on the people that visit West Hollywood because they view those people as having more money to them. And a lot of the robberies that happen, they happen at gunpoint, and they happen from people coming in from other places, preying upon the people of West Hollywood. They are not going to be deterred by a safety ambassador who is unarmed. And this is another example of how completely hypocritical these city council members. So the city council member that I talked to on the phone, one of the city council members that voted to defund the sheriffs, so they're going to remove 5 sheriffs from West Hollywood. By the way, the West Hollywood sheriffs are awesome. She called the sheriffs on me and my friend. So during the pandemic, we had a little table, and our table was to get signatures to recall Gavin Newsom, right? There was 3 of us at the time. We're in the middle of an open park, and she called because we weren't wearing masks. Granted, we are in the middle of an open park. There's nobody around us. There is a restaurant across the street from us where all these people are sitting at tables all close together, and they're not wearing masks because COVID doesn't it doesn't spread if you're sitting down at a restaurant, only when you're standing to walk into the restaurant. But when you're sitting down at the restaurant, it doesn't spread. But there was like an outdoor, I guess, mandate that you were supposed to. Thank you so much. 15,000 subs. You're a celebrity now. So famous. Thank you so much, Kelly. That was really sweet. So anyway, we're outside, and all of a sudden a sheriff pulls up, and he's talking to us, and he's like, hey, we're getting complaints about you guys being out here. And we're like, what are you talking about? Anyway, it ended up being, we had 3 sheriffs, I think at one point 4, talking to us, trying to get us to put masks on. And we're like, we're not putting a mask on. It doesn't make any sense. We're outside. We're not around anyone. Like, look at all the people over there. Look at all the homeless people sitting here, like, sleeping. This is also a park where homeless people slept. Anyway, so that city council member and another city council member were literally in a parking. By the way, this was like the most bizarre 45 minutes of my life. So 2 city council members were standing in a parking lot across the street talking to these police officers, or these sheriffs that were surrounding us, basically. And they wanted them to give us citations for not having our masks on. And the sheriffs didn't want to. They were really cool, but they were basically forced to by the city council and by their boss. So the same city council members that voted to defund the sheriffs had called the sheriffs on us. So that just goes to show you that they're hypocritical. They're full of crap. And they're also like BLM activists. And let me point this out to you. One of my friends that I was with, that they basically sicked the sheriffs on us. And the reason I think they did it is because they didn't like the fact that we were sitting there with a recall Gavin Newsom sign. These are like super far leftists. Salty Army loves you. Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate that. They are super far leftists, and they didn't like that we were not following the rules and that we had a recall Gavin Newsom sign. This was also right after a lot of the protests and a lot of the riots. So they were okay with the 20,000 protesters in the street. They were okay with that, but they were not okay with us standing there. And a same city council member who sicked the sheriffs on us, who didn't have a problem with the sheriffs then, is the same one that's defunding them now. And also, this was a BLM activist. This woman, she, my friend who I was with, happened to be a young black male. So these are the same people that are telling you that that police hate young black males, that they're inherently racist, that they're corrupt, that it's dangerous out there for a young black male. But she didn't have a problem sicking 3 sheriffs on myself and my friend who happened to be a young black male. So that just goes to show you these people are full of crap. They are just hyper partisan ideologues, and it's all about, it's not based in reality. So they're just complete hypocrites. And I don't think it's a good decision at all. I think that most people in West Hollywood are fine with the sheriffs. I don't think they want to defund the sheriffs. I think most people in West Hollywood understand what's happening right now with all of these gun robberies, and I don't think it's a good decision. It's a purely ideological decision. And what's really interesting about the choice to defund the sheriffs is at the same time that they basically voted to defund the sheriff's department, they made it into law that bars can stay open until 4 a.m. now. So it went from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And that, in my opinion, is a recipe for disaster. And it was so funny because I was just speaking to someone who recently moved to West Hollywood. He's a man, and he was walking home from the bars. I think it was about 1 a.m. And he wasn't like wasted. I'm sure he had had a few drinks, but he wasn't by any means like drunk. He was walking back from the bar at 1 a.m. and was followed to his home. He wasn't assaulted or anything, but it was very close. And I think the reason he wasn't, he started screaming and that he was calling the police. And even he was really disappointed because he was like, the police just told me they couldn't do anything. And the reason the police are telling you they can't do anything is because when they arrest these people, they're just let right back out. So you already have a problem with the criminal justice system that is leading people to believe that they're out there on their own and they're not safe. And now you're doing this. And also, what I told him was this, and this is true. I was like, you need to be really careful and do not walk home at night. I don't care how big and tough you look, because that's when a lot of these people that are coming in and following people home, or they're robbing people at gunpoint, they're doing it when people are walking back from the bars because they're expecting you to be a little tipsy and vulnerable. And I was like, do not walk home at night. Like during the day, you're probably okay. Don't wear your watches or anything. Do not walk home at night. And a lot of people know this. And that is what happens. If you look at the times that a lot of these things happen, it's late at night when people are leaving the bars and they're kind of drunk and they're kind of vulnerable and they don't have their guard up as they usually do. So I don't know what they're thinking. Well, I kind of know what they're thinking. By the way, this same city council member who I've been talking about, when I spoke to her on the phone, I was already back in Virginia at that point, and I was just dealing with a lot of family health issues. So going into the phone call, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to listen. I was like, I'm not going to fight back or anything. I don't have the energy right now. I'm not there. Like, sometimes you have to choose your battles, and this woman wasn't going to budge in her ideology. I told her a few things, and she did let me talk, and she listened. But I was like, I want to listen. Like, I want to understand where her ideology is coming from. I want to understand why, because she's so out of touch with my concept of reality. I just want to understand. And after getting off the phone with her, she was a nice person. Like, if I met her and we weren't talking about these ideologies, we would get along just fine. You know, we shared a laugh. Like, yeah, if I met her out, we would get along just fine. But after getting off the phone with her and hearing like the language she used, and it was very like culty, honestly, I wanted to throw up. I really wanted to throw up, because I was like, we make fun of super woke ideologues and people like that, but when they have positions of power and they're making things into law and they're this out of touch with reality, it's scary. It really is. So those are some of my thoughts on that. But I thought you might enjoy how hypocritical it is that this woman wants to defund the West Hollywood sheriffs, yet she sicked him on me. And my friend. That was the most bizarre 45 minutes of my life. I live in VA Beach. It has gotten a little bit more crazy, unlike Norfolk. I gave all. All right. Thank you so much, you all. That was a good live. I have to go now. Glad I don't live in West Hollywood. Yeah, we'll see how this works out. We'll see. Anyway, thank you again so much, you guys. I'll be live again at 2 p.m. tomorrow. I'm also going to be here again tomorrow night, probably at about 8 p.m. So if you want to join, I'll be here tomorrow at 2 p.m. and then hopefully again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Okay, but thank you very much. That was fun, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day. Bye. See you later. Bye, Kelly. Bye, TNN. Bye, Gail. I almost said bye, Sarah. Bye, Clown Man. Bye, Walkie Talkie. All right. See you later. Bye. How do I turn myself off? Right here. Okay. Bye.